dairy cows and cows for their flesh.
Right, so we're just getting started at the moment. I've just started live now. So we are at a slaughterhouse today, just getting the YouTube set up and ready to go.
Thank you for defending the animals with us. Oh, it's a truck. Truck. Let's go.
Truck's just arriving now. All the cows into the truck. This truck is full of cows, waiting to go into the slaughterhouse.
These are dairy cows here. These are dairy cows. Don't think being vegetarian is enough. These dairy cows are here. Some of them in the truck will be pregnant.
This truck is full of cows. It could be dairy cows, could be beef cows. You can see the shit coming out the back of the truck. See the trail of feces coming out the back of the truck. All the cows that have just gone in, they're literally shitting themselves as they go through the gates of this slaughterhouse. The smell is absolutely horrendous here. That was absolutely disgusting. Literally just started this live stream and already that truck that's just gone in. They're getting the trucks in as quickly as they can. See the trucks going in there behind. That blue truck was the one that's just gone in. You can see the cows. So, just in that last comment, what are you an activist for? So I'm an animal rights activist, and we're here to expose the horror of these industries. These are cows being taken into a slaughterhouse to be killed whilst they're still just babies and a few years old. The smell is absolutely horrendous. This is what you're paying for if you consume dairy, if you consume meat, beef, burgers. This is the reality. Those trucks have tiny, tiny gaps in, and yeah, you can just about see their noses peeking through. There's already a truck in there already. Just trying to keep the camera there so you can see everything that's going on at the moment. They'll be offloading these trucks, offloading the animals in the trucks. We've got activists here, we've got Mel and Steve, and the 40-year-old vegan here. It's absolutely horrendous. We're here to show exactly what happens at this site. The smell is absolutely horrendous here. I said before, when the trucks came in, this is all literal shit on the side of the road. The cows come in, they're fearful, they're scared. can still see the cows poking their head out the top of the truck. The cows are still in there. So at this slaughterhouse site, they take both beef cows and dairy cows. So beef cows are often just 1 to 2 years old when they're sent to slaughter like this. And dairy cows are often between 3 and 5 years old after cycles of forcible impregnation, having their babies stolen from them. Then they end up here in a slaughterhouse. The dairy industry is the meat industry, and the animals all end up here at the same slaughterhouse. Have you ever seen anything like this before? Have you been to a slaughterhouse before? Have you witnessed the reality of what happens to these animals before? There's sites like this that happen all around the country. And you can get taste from other things. You don't have to eat animals to get nice tasting food. You can eat plant-based alternatives. You don't have to pay for animals to be sent to a slaughterhouse to be killed. This is what happens behind the gates. Obviously, they keep the gates shut. They keep it most enclosed. They don't want activists here. They don't want us exposing what happens. And you can see the cows poking their way through. This is the last bit of sunlight that they will get. This is the last time that they will see daylight. They will soon be taken inside this facility. They'll be bolt gunned to the head, and then they'll be hung up and have their throat sliced open. And this is what happens all around the world. There's another truck coming in now. Look at their eyes. Look at them. I'm sorry. So sorry. How fearful they are. Look into their eyes. This is not okay. How young they are. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Look at their eyes.
Hear me all right, oh no, I'm just hitting
You're
Oh,
so
that really
strong,
got me.
You're so strong, but everything you do for the animals is amazing. It's so hard.
They were just babies in there.
This is why we're here. This is why we do this. We're going to change it. We're going to change it.
Oh, fuck's sake.
We can break. We can break. We can change it. We can go home and we can rebuild and we can come out again as much as we can. You're an absolute hero for the animals, for everything that you do. You should be so proud for being here.
I think after all the time seeing this, it still just shocks me. Fuck's sake. This is absolutely disgusting. These animals taken in as their babies.
You okay, man? This is why we're here, bro. This is why we're here. We got this. We got this.
They don't deserve any of this. Why can't we just treat animals with kindness? Why do we have to send them to these places? It's absolutely disgusting. These animals, these are babies in there, look like less than a year old, been taken to a slaughterhouse. If you're not vegan, you're paying for this. Why aren't you vegan yet? If you're watching this and you're not vegan, you're paying for these animals to be bolt gunned to the head and have their throat sliced. It's absolutely disgusting. You can still have the same taste of meat and you don't have to pay for animals to come to this place. You say it's part of the food chain. What part of the food chain involves mass breeding animals in factory farms to be sent to a slaughterhouse to be killed? This is not part of any food chain. This is not the circle of life, this is the circle of death. It's absolutely disgusting what we do to animals. If you were in their position, how would you feel? Would you want someone to fight for you? Just going to get an umbrella up. If you're just tuning in now, just rewind it for the last 5 minutes. We've had 2 trucks come in. Baby cows have been taken here for slaughter and they're just unloading the trucks right now as we speak. If you claim to be an animal lover, yet you're paying for this, you need to look in the mirror and realise what you're actually paying for. You're paying for animals to be shot in the head and have their throat sliced. It's an absolute disgrace what we do to animals. If you want to see more, just watch the 3-minute video in my video description. It's completely free to watch. It's called 3minutes.wtf. Check out the video in my video description. You can tune into this live stream, you can watch this YouTube video, this 3-minute video. You don't have to pay for animals to be slaughtered. You can choose kindness instead. Yeah, exactly, William. It is sickening what they do to animals. All animals that we consume for food and for clothing. And it's unnecessary. You don't need to do it. It's a choice. And because it's a choice, why would you choose to be cruel? Why would you choose to send animals to a slaughterhouse? It's just unnecessary. As I said, rewind just 5 minutes of this video and you'll see 2 huge trucks that have come in with cows. And you'll see the reality for yourself of what we're witnessing here today. Just getting an umbrella set up because it's just starting to chuck it down. So please check out the 3-minute movie in my video description and you can see exactly what happens to these animals and what we're witnessing here today. So we've got other activists here today. We've got the 40-year-old vegan David, and we've also got Mel and Steve live streaming at the moment. Again, bear with, just getting my umbrella set up. Yeah. Disgusting place. Absolutely disgusting place. There's no need for this place to exist. We've betrayed animals on such a mass scale. And this is here in the UK. If you've got any questions, please do put them in the chat and I will respond to them very shortly. Thanks for just bearing with whilst we've only been here 15 minutes, still getting set up at the moment. Drama queens looking for attention. What we're doing here today is exposing what happens inside slaughterhouses, exposing what happens to animals. We're here for no other reason than trying to stop animals from being sent into slaughterhouses. Security have come out. See, they don't want anyone taking photos or pictures of what happens here. They want everything to be secretive. They don't want this being exposed. Security, yeah, obviously don't want anyone here. They keep it so secretive, and if it's so secretive, why is that? If this is so natural, if this is so normal, why do they keep it behind gates? Have security employed? You don't see the same sort of thing at a strawberry picking field, do you? Yeah, we definitely do need cameras inside those places to expose exactly what goes on and happens to these animals. Thanks, Laura, for all the kind comments, by the way. The truck coming out now. This is now the truck that went in earlier that had lots of cows in. They've now been taken inside the facility. This truck is empty. They've had to hose down this truck, but you can still see that feces are still trickling outside the truck, down the bottom. They've tried to wash it out, but still there's so much feces and urine inside that they can't stop it.
Goes to pick up the next load of slaves to bring back to the slaughterhouse. He goes home, but they don't get a chance to go home, do they? They're condemned to death. Condemned to death.
This is another slaughterhouse called ABP. This is a chain of slaughterhouses all around the UK. Check out the 3-minute video in my video description and you can see exactly what happens to the animals that we're bearing witness here today. Just 3 minutes and it can change your life. Don't just take my word for it, you can see the reality for yourself of what happens to these animals. This question about is it halal? Why does it matter if it's halal or not? The animals are being sent to be killed, whether they're stunned or not beforehand. They're going to be killed, they're going to be shot in the head and have their throat sliced open. The only way to truly be kind is to stop paying for these animals to come to this facility. Just going to make you a moderator, Laura, in case you have fun with the comments. So what happens here in this facility, so as I said, we're at a slaughterhouse in the UK, not far from London, and this is another ABP slaughterhouse that take various cows and sheep into this facility. I think it's primarily cows, but both dairy cows and beef cows. So these animals are 1 to 2 years old if they're in the beef industry, and if in the dairy industry, they'll be about 3 to 5 years old. After cycles of forcible impregnation, they're then sent to slaughter because they're no longer profitable for the industry. So when you pay for dairy, when you pay for cheese, when you pay for milk, the animals that are coming in on these trucks, about to be shot in the head and have their throat sliced open, that's the same industry. And my umbrella has just broken. Cheers. Perfect, thank you. Are you advocating for veganism though? Absolutely, 100% advocating for veganism. If you're not vegan, you're paying for animal cruelty, animal exploitation, and animal suffering, whether it's for food, drink, clothing, entertainment. Veganism is the only true way of being kind to animals. So a question back, are you vegan? The person who put that question. Do you know what vegan is? If you please put in the chat if you're concerned or unsure about what being vegan is, if you see any challenges about being vegan. Any genuine questions, please put them in the chat and I'd happily, debunk anything, explain anything and show you exactly what it's like to be vegan and to be kind to animals. I've been vegan for 4.5 years after watching a documentary called Earthlings about what happens to the animals in this facility and other facilities around the world and in this country. So the video is in the video in this YouTube video description. There's a description and a link to a 3-minute video, and it's called 3minutes.wtf. And that is just a 3-minute video that covers all of what happens to animals in a very succinct way. And if you've got more time, please do watch a documentary called The Land of Hope and Glory, watch Dominion, watch Earthlings. They're all very similar. And you can understand exactly what happens to animals, and then you can align, if you're an animal lover, if you want to respect animals, you can align those actions with your morals, with your beliefs, and you can stop paying for the cruelty and exploitation happening to animals. This question here, we should all eat veggies and be unhealthy. Wind's coming through. You can be 100% healthy on a plant-based diet. The British Dietetic Association, the American Dietetic Association have proved through all forms of life from infancy all through to adulthood and old age that a plant-based diet is full of nutrition and everything that you'll need. Obviously we're all vegan here and we're absolutely thriving on just eating plant-based foods. And just because you're an omnivore does not mean you have to eat meat. So the difference, good question, Fennel, yeah, difference between vegetarian and vegan. So vegetarian is just a diet, essentially, that don't eat meat. The difference with vegan is you reject all forms of exploitation to animals, which includes diet, but it includes clothing, it includes entertainment. It's saying, I don't want to commodify animals, I do not want to pay for their exploitation. So it involves eating only plant-based foods, but it encapsulates all more of that. So as I said, it covers things like clothing, wool, fur. It covers things like animals in entertainment, things like horse racing, things like greyhound racing, things like circuses, bullfighting. Vegans are against all of that, whereas vegetarians just don't eat meat. And vegetarians are still paying for the animals that are coming into this slaughterhouse. We have dairy cows coming in here. Dairy cows are forcibly impregnated throughout their lives. Once they give birth, the male calves are usually separated and then killed within their first week or sold as part of the veal industry. And if they're females, they'll be still separated from their mothers. And then once they're old enough, they'll go through the same cycle of impregnations until they are no longer profitable for the industry, for the farm, and they're deemed as spent in the industry. And they end up in these same slaughterhouses, slaughtered for things like cheap meat, for things like cheeseburgers. So they're just unloading one of the trucks that have just come in. If you just rewind the stream, you can see the trucks that we've got on camera. Already today, there's a few trucks that have gone in. So there's a question here, if animals stop being slaughtered, what will happen to them? So animals are being bred into existence from a supply and demand perspective. So animals are bred into existence, you know, billions of land animals, to then be sent to slaughterhouses at babies, young ages. So what would happen when people go vegan and stop paying for these animals is they'll stop being bred into existence, and therefore the demand will reduce, and therefore the supply will reduce. So the production and enslavement of these animals will eventually reduce over time, until eventually farmers will transition to growing crops and no longer need to farm animals, and the animals will eventually end up in sanctuaries because the number would eventually decline. So as I said, there's a video link in the YouTube video description. It's called 3minutes.wtf, and you can get a whole holistic view of what happens to the animals, and the reason why many of us here today are standing up and speaking for these animals is because we've watched something similar. So in just 3 minutes, you can watch exactly what happened. And there's a question about what I've just mentioned about animals ending up in sanctuaries or become extinct. So animal agriculture is the #1 driver for species extinction and habitat loss. All the species that have become extinct already because the farmland that has been cleared, been sort of taken down, deforestation, all those habitats and species have become extinct, is a large reason is because of animal agriculture and the farming industry. And there's a question here about, is organic any better? So the idea of organic, free range, RSPCA assured, all these sort of welfare standards, that doesn't mean anything to these animals. If we take chickens, for example, free range organic simply means you get the space of an A4 size piece of paper, the size of an iPad, and you can house 16,000 chickens in a chicken shed. So don't believe all the myths that you see on marketing and TVs where you see these chickens running around in fields, all looking all happy. They're not, they're in sheds, thousands of them in sheds, dying on the floors, and they end up being sent to gas chambers at the age of 42 days old on average. So they're just 6 weeks old and they're lowered into CO2 gas chambers. And they can live for years and years of their lives. So there's a question here, so raising a cow and calf with love and care and not sending them to slaughterhouse and letting them live in farm but we get little milk to drink, is it bad? So again, it's this idea of, are you viewing an animal to take something for your own benefit? Are you trying to use them and commodify them? And at the end of the day, there's a reason why cows produce milk. It's not for humans. Cows produce milk for their young, like humans, female humans produce milk for their babies, the same that cows do that for their young. You know, we don't drink any other species of milk and no other species drinks any other species of milk, but for some reason we've been sold this lie about drinking cow's milk. So you don't need to drink the milk from a cow that is intended for their young, and that's the only reason they produce milk in the first place. So someone's just turned up at the moment. So people do often sort of come and stop by, and yeah, Steve's just outreaching them at the moment. Yeah, exactly, Alicia. Cow's milk is for calves. As I said, there's quite a few questions and messages coming through in the chat. Please feel free to repost them if you think I've missed them. Unless it's just a silly troll comment, then I probably will have ignored it. Yeah, so a comment here from the Empress, if you think vegans just eat bread and drink water, you have a lot to learn, educate yourself. So when I went vegan, I ate far more foods and experimented with so many more like foods that I would never have tried before being vegan. And you can eat so many tasty, good foods that are healthy for you, and ultimately you don't pay for an animal to be sent into a slaughterhouse, to be bolt gunned to the head, or sent into a gas chamber. And knowing that we have these choices now, when you go into a supermarket, you see the plant-based section in a supermarket. When you go to a restaurant, you see menus labelled with vegan options. if it's that easy to just choose a vegan option and a plant-based food, why would you not want to choose that? Why would you pay? Why would you want to pay for an animal to have to die for you when you don't need to? I always love these questions from, is it MCFC Beardy, get a job? I mean, I don't understand what you try to achieve with that. I see it a lot. I've got a job. Have you got a job? You know, you're here spending the same amount of time as I am. So I just find that question hilarious. And even so, just because you have a job, why would that matter on earth of why you can't speak up for animals? Hey Jake, thanks for tuning in. So yeah, we're here at a slaughterhouse in the UK, just outside of London. We've had multiple trucks come in already. If you rewind the stream to about 5-10 minutes in, you'll see the trucks that have already come in, and the cows that have gone in already are really, really young. They look like, you know, young calves, young bulls that have gone inside, and they're about to have their basically be bolt gunned to the head and have their throats sliced open. And the point of this is you don't have to pay for this anymore. You don't have to support these industries that you may not know that you're paying towards. So question here from Fennel, so what about plants? They're also living beings. By eating them, we're also killing and eating them. Plants don't feel pain. Plants don't have plants don't have sentience. They don't have a central nervous system. They don't have pain receptors. But also, let's play, you know, okay, let's pretend that plants did have pain. This would still be an advocate towards veganism. All the billions of crops that we're growing to feed animals, to then kill the animals for food, you're killing way more plants for the animals than you would do if you were vegan yourself. So whichever way you look at it, it's just an argument to being vegan as well. Question about being insects being killed. This is about intentional harm and exploitation to animals. Being vegan is doing what is practically possible to stop exploiting and using animals for human benefit. So no matter what it is that you're doing, sometimes there's unintentional harm. You know, if you're driving a car or walking down the road and you accidentally step on a bug, that is very different from paying for an animal to be sent into a slaughterhouse. So I'm just going to show you what's going on inside this facility. If you can see over the top, there's animals there on the trucks. Just added you as a moderator, Jake. These are the cows that have just gone inside. You can see security there, just the other side of the gate. You can see the animals there on that top layer of the middle blue truck that you can see. You can see the cows poking their noses through. This is the last time that they will see daylight, the last time they'll be outside. I don't believe this is a halal slaughterhouse, just to spawn your question. So they will most likely bolt gun them to the head, and then they will hang them up by their legs and have their throats sliced. Get a grip, do something for the world instead of crying for something that will never stop. Thing is, this will stop. More and more people are being woken up to what is happening to animals. More and more people are going vegan, and we can stop this. You know, if we go back 50, 100 years, we wouldn't be consuming the amount of meat that we do today. These factory farms would be nothing the size they are today, and this is all because of supply and demand. All we have to do is educate people to make compassionate choices. So yeah, we've got other live streamers here today with us. We've got David, the 40-year-old vegan, and we've got Mel and Steve also live streaming right now. All here exposing what happens to these animals. And if you're vegan, and you haven't been to a slaughterhouse, I'd highly recommend it. Mel and Steve are doing a project live stream where multiple people go to slaughterhouses on the same day and expose them. There's a question there. Yep, all my clothes are vegan, products are vegan. Question here, insects are extremely important for the ecosystem. I mean, I absolutely agree. And yet animal agriculture is a #1 driver of many things such as species extinction, habitat loss, and deforestation. So again, this is a reason for being vegan. So as I said earlier, there's a link in this video description to a 3-minute movie where you can see exactly what happens to animals in this country and all around the world. In just 3 minutes, you can get a whole overview and a reason why many of us here today have decided to be vegan. And if you have a bit more time, you can watch a documentary called Earthlings, or you can watch Dominion, or you can watch The Land of Hope and Glory. Maybe an hour's documentary if you have the time, but that was the reason why I went vegan 4.5 years ago. So Pranshu said, I'm not vegan but vegetarian. So firstly, what was it that made you go vegetarian? And why are you not vegan, if you wanted to respond to that?
Grow up, you know, Riz what?
Yeah, exactly, the Empress. If you really loved animals, you wouldn't pay for them to go into slaughterhouses, 100%. If you love animals and respect them, then you should not pay for them to be sent to slaughterhouses, to be shot in the head, to have their throat sliced, or be lowered into CO2 gas chambers. This is not propaganda, this is the reality. We're all here live streaming exactly what's happening on a public place. Watch your back. It's a delivery driver coming through.
We've reduced nature to nothing. All these animals that you eat every single
There's a question here, but they're delicious. You can get the same taste sensations, the same flavors without consuming animals. There's so many options out there, plant-based alternatives, or just being creative with whole food plant foods, you know, like beans, legumes, tempeh, tofu, seitan. You get those same tastes without paying for animals to die. So why would you want to force an animal into a place like this when you could just choose something else?
having them suffer, sometimes getting birthed on these trucks. Can you imagine? Birthed on trucks. Bro, they kill mother cows in there. They shoot them in the face.
Delivery driver going in.
It's taking place inside this disgusting nightmare hell. And you see how concerned...
If that's AL, if that's you, Aaron, thanks for being on. They close that gate as quickly as possible. They don't want activists taking a look inside. This is such a hidden industry, and you have to question if something is so hidden, if something is so protected, why would it be that way? As I said, you don't get the same sort of security and protection at a strawberry field.
Absolutely abhorrent.
I'll make you a moderator, Aaron, as well.
Exactly, don't be oppressor, guys. We don't need to be a part of this. This is why we're out here sharing with you guys today.
So there's a question about lab-grown meat. At the end of the day, what we're trying to stop is animals being exploited, used and commodified. Any version of alternatives that are going to stop animals from being forced into gas chambers and forced into slaughterhouses is a way to do it. But personally, I don't think we need lab-grown meat. We have alternatives that exist already. We have plant-based alternatives. And even better for you from a health perspective is that you can just eat whole food plant-based foods. You can eat things like tofu, tempeh, seitan, beans, legumes, pasta, rice. There's so many foods out there that don't involve lab-grown meat. We don't need to spend all this money investing in things when we already have these options that are available with us today. Just going to grab some water so we get. I'll just point the camera around. We've got other activists here with us. Just seeing a question again, I think you were on my live stream on Saturday about Cambridge University. I'm really not sure what that's related to, so yeah, let me know what you mean by that. So I've just scrolled to the bottom of the chats. Any genuine questions about being vegan, please do drop them into the chat. I'm here to help, I'm here to answer questions, and I'm here ultimately to make you vegan, because what we need is as many people as possible boycotting these industries. We need to stop these animals being sent into slaughterhouses. If you were here, stood here, watching the animals go in, you would not want to pay for that. And in this video description, there's a link to a 3-minute movie where you can watch exactly what happens. So why are you vegan? Why don't you eat meat or free-range eggs? I don't consume animal products, whether it's meat, whether it's eggs, whether it's dairy, because we don't need to use or exploit animals. After learning what happens to these animals, I watched a documentary called Earthlings, and seeing the horrors of the farming process, what happens in slaughterhouses. So, for example, you know, meat, these animals are coming into slaughterhouses like this are babies. Cows that are 1 to 2 years old in the beef industry, or 3 to 5 if in the dairy industry. Sheep or lambs that are 4 to 6 months old. Chickens that are 42 days old on average are sent into CO2 gas chambers or be bolt gunned to the head and have their throats sliced open. When ultimately we don't need to do this to animals. We don't need to look at animals and try and extract a benefit for humans. We can just leave animals alone. We don't need to enslave them. We don't need to slaughter them. We can be kind to animals and respect them and live with them on this planet. No, living with them and cohabiting, not trying to use them and exploit them for food, for clothing, for anything. There's so much food that we as humans can eat, and there was a study that showed that if we switched from animal farming to plant-based farming, we can essentially rewild 75% of our arable land. We can rewild 3/4 of the Earth's arable land to grow crops. As I said earlier, the American Dietetic Association, the British Dietetic Association, some of the biggest studies of all their kind show that you can be healthy on a proper plant-based diet through infancy, childhood, adulthood, old age. And many of us vegans are just living proof of that. So there's a question here, so dogs and cats will go vegan too? So please look up some research from Dr. Andrew Knight. That's Dr. Andrew Knight from the University of Winchester. He has done extensive studies on dog food and cat food from feeding them basically plants. And they show that they can be healthy. And I know people personally that have dogs that feed them plant-based foods. You know, Mel and Steve that are here today is a perfect example. So it can be done. Thanks, Alicia. Yes, that's Dr. Andrew Wright. The rain is getting a little bit worse now. Just trying to make sure my equipment's okay. So sorry if I've just missed a few questions. What about the lions? They eat meat. Should they become vegan? So again, people love picking lions from the wild. Why not pick a hippo or rhino? Why don't you pick another animal? Lions are obligate carnivores. Things like hippos, for example, with their canines, they're herbivores. They eat plants. So it's just an irrelevant comment. And you're not a lion. You have moral agency. You have intelligence. You have choices of what you eat and consume. So where will the cows go if not eaten? So as I said, this is all supply and demand. So animals are bred into existence to feed the demand of the people ordering and requesting the food. So as that demand reduces, animals will stop being bred into existence, and ultimately farmers will transition, and then the animals will end up in sanctuaries where people genuinely care for their animals and they're not going to send them off to slaughterhouses. So there's a question here, I'm vegetarian but do take eggs and dairy is my main protein sources. What is your protein source? So, I mean, eggs and dairy are, primarily saturated fats and high in cholesterol. But in terms of protein sources that you get from plants, so all protein comes from plants. All protein comes from plants. You get all your essential amino acids from plants. So if you want foods that are high or rich or nutrient dense in protein, you can get things like tofu, tempeh, seitan, or things like beans, legumes, lentils, chickpeas, anything like that can all get your protein. And I think there's such a big myth around protein. I don't know anyone who has ever died from a protein deficiency. And me, I can get between 100 and 200 grams of protein a day from just eating plants. Question: animal products and plant products. And at the end of the day, if you know that you can get all your food, all your protein, all your nutrients from plants, you have no excuse to pay for animals to go into slaughterhouses. There's a question, all high calories. It doesn't have to be high calories at all. As I said, these foods, tofu, tempeh, seitan, beans, rice, legumes, whatever it might be, you can still reduce your calories intake and still get your protein. About the millions of animals that are killed in order for you to have your plants, this classic crop death argument. This is an argument for veganism. When you're growing billions of crops, you're feeding most of them to the animals. Think of how many resources and crops are used to feed animals that we then consume. So if you're really concerned about animals being killed because of the plants, then that's an argument for veganism. Still really not understanding what you're on about, Winston, not gonna lie. There's a few comments about cholesterol. As a vegan, you don't consume any cholesterol. You don't consume bad cholesterol. You don't have any, negative cholesterol markers on the charts when you get blood tests. If we all went vegan, the food chain would collapse. Explain what you mean, because that is definitely not the case. Animals would thrive. We would have less species extinction, we'd have less habitat loss, we'd have more land for animals to thrive on. So there's a question here, which vegetables can I eat in the UK that will support a healthy life without importing food which is damaging for the environment? So if we're talking about damage to the environment, and most likely things like greenhouse gas emissions, when we look at food in totality, transport only accounts between 6 and 8% of the emissions of a food. Often they're shipped via ferries and cargo ships. So if you're only concerned about where the food is coming from, that's only talking about a fraction of the total emissions of those foods. So you're more better off, let's say, choosing foods and where they come from in terms of what they are and how if it's animals, if they're bred and they're on farms, you think of all the water use, the land use for those animals to grow, all the crops and feed that's fed to those animals. When you can just eat the plants directly, it's way more important of what you eat than where it comes from. This question here, I care about Ukraine, Gaza and global warming. This is simply not a priority. You can advocate for lots of things, you can advocate for all of those things, but this is a priority for these animals right here today going into these slaughterhouses. Billions of land animals and sea animals are being killed every single minute of every single day. There is no greater atrocity in terms of volume than what's happening to animals, and we have to speak up for them. And if you're really concerned things about health, please watch What the Health on Netflix. Please look at documentaries. Please read your own research, peer-reviewed, proper research, and you'll see that plant-based foods are more than adequate for all forms of life. So for anyone that has just tuned in, I'm live outside a slaughterhouse here in the UK, and we're bearing witness to the animals going into this slaughterhouse on trucks. They've been cows so far, they've been beef cows that are really, really young, as well as dairy cows. They're often just 1 to 2 years old, or 3 to 5 years old if they're dairy cows. And the reason is that you can be vegan and not pay for animals to have to go into slaughterhouses. So you can get vegan alternatives for fish oil. Just type in vegan fish oil on Google and you will see plenty of alternatives. And a lot of the nutrients that fish oil have derives from algae in the first place. So in the same way that you're trying to get nutrients from things like fish oil or fish, is the same way that some people get protein from animals, where you can just get it from the from the plants directly. You can still get the same taste from plant-based foods. You can get a vegan bacon sarnie, you can get vegan options of everything. If you don't want to pay for a pig to be sent into a gas chamber, to be burnt from the insides, have their eyes burn, their lungs burn, to suffocate to death, you can just buy something else. You don't have to pay for a pig to go into a gas chamber. Plants are alive and feel pain. I've already said about this earlier. Plants don't have pain receptors, they're not sentient, they don't have central nervous systems, and if they did, that's still an argument for veganism, because the amount of crops and plants that are killed for feeding animals as well. And this slaughterhouse is right, you know, in the public space, and on a road. We've got, you know, businesses behind us, people walking past. Oh, that's so funny. Sorry, I've missed quite a few comments. Feel free to repost them if I missed them. Protein deficiency, back with a new profile. Yeah, and for the many comments that I'm missing, you know, if you're vegan on this chat, please feel free to respond to some of these comments. You know, it's hard to get through them all. Like, yeah, just in a comment here, actually answering questions. I'm here to answer questions. I'm here to, you know, debunk anything you might have seen or heard online. I'm here to support. And in my video description, I've got a link to a 3-minute video, and it just shows exactly what happens to animals. I'm here to educate and to try and help people realize that if you truly are kind to animals and respect animals, then you would treat them with kindness and not send them to slaughterhouses. Yeah, how's it going?
Yeah, got a lot of people in there. Maya, how are you?
So yeah, we got Mel and Steve here live streaming as well.
Hello. So yeah, Alex did an amazing job. He's at a slaughterhouse, exposing the truth to people, because good people don't know what happened. Good people are currently paying for animals to go to slaughter, and they might not even realise. Like, I didn't know for 26 years what I was funding. Watch Dominion on YouTube and stay on this live stream. Stay on this live stream to see the animals with your own eyes. Because once you know better is when you can change. Otherwise, what motivation do you have to go vegan if you don't understand it? Or you got to see the animals. The animals have gone through these gates today, baby animals and mothers, through these gates, and their next destination is the kill floor. How horrible is that? Know that if you are not vegan, you're paying for it, but you have the power to change. Ask yourself this question: how many more animals have to go to slaughter for you before you go vegan? Like, that's none.
It's a powerful question. So yeah, that's Mel and Steve. If you're not following them already, it's Mel and Steve. They're live streaming right now, just behind, or well, in front of me. And we've also got David, the 40-year-old vegan, in the background. He's also live streaming as well. So yeah, please yeah, please continue with the comments, with the questions, and I'll try and get around to as many as I can that I see coming through. But one thing that, again, I try and reiterate on these streams when I'm at the slaughterhouse is the smell, the sheer smell that is coming from this site. It is absolutely disgusting. Obviously, the cows that are going in there are, you know, literally shitting themselves on the trucks as they go in. They have to almost proper jet wash each truck as they go in and out because of how bad the conditions are inside. You can smell the death, you can smell the shit. It is a disgusting place, and these places should not exist. If you're an animal lover and you're not vegan, you need to ask yourself, what are you doing? Because if you really loved animals and treated them with respect, you would be vegan. And you can be vegan right now. You can go vegan from this moment and decide that you're not going to pay for animals to be sent to slaughterhouses, whether it's for meat, whether it's for dairy, eggs, for fur, for wool, and as well as other things that people don't realise, animals used in entertainment, things like horse racing, horses that die at a very, very young age because they break their necks and are forced to jump on tracks. Greyhound racing, circuses, bullfighting. If you're vegan, you just say, I don't want to be a part of any of this. You don't want to support any of that. Okay, so Winston, we were not at Cambridge together, and you can kind of stop those questions now because it's just not true. I'm not sure why you think that. Maybe I look like someone. Ethical farms look after animals and take care of animals more than you do. How an ethical farm cannot exist. It cannot exist. You cannot have an ethical farm. You cannot treat someone with kindness and then send them to a slaughterhouse. It cannot exist. So I'm in the UK, just outside of London, at a slaughterhouse, and bearing witness to the cows going in to being killed here today. I'm standing here because I have to expose this place. I'm trying to reach as many people as possible to show them exactly what happens to the reality of these animals. Yeah, you can hear Steve in the background. Just turn the camera around, you can see where he's standing at the moment. So most people would not have stood outside a slaughterhouse. Most people have never seen the animals on the truck going into a slaughterhouse. And that's what I'm doing on this live stream. If you rewind to just 5 or 10 minutes at the very start of this stream, you'll see the trucks that have already come in this morning, and you can see the animals' faces. Most people are so detached from what happens to animals and how they end up in slaughterhouses. All they do is buy products off a shelf or in a supermarket or in a restaurant. You don't see exactly what happens. There's a comment here from Hugh, sold, I'm vegan now, brother. I genuinely really hope that that is true, and I really hope that you have seen the compassion that you can do to animals, and you can now not have to exploit them and use them and pay for them to be sent into slaughterhouses. And thanks, Louis. Yeah, abortion issue is not relevant to veganism yet. You know, I'm here to speak up for the animals today. Doesn't mean you can't advocate for any other injustices in the world, or whatever your beliefs may be. We're here to speak up for what happens to animals. Yeah, it's a good comments, Jake. And also, yeah, Aaron as well. Thanks for all the comments. I said Hafez have just answered that, so yeah, you can, no need to keep putting that comment. Thank you, the Empress. Yeah. And I still, yeah, the comments around jobs, like you can have jobs and still advocate for animal rights. The vegans cause cancer. Excellent comment and just simply untrue. Drink milk and stop eating cheese. Exactly. So the cows that are coming into this slaughterhouse, often they're dairy cows. So they are forcibly inseminated. They will take the semen from a bull and they'll get a metal rod and they will insert it into the female cow to impregnate them. After months of pregnancy, they will then give birth. The babies are then taken from the mother cow. If they're males, they're usually killed within the first week and sent to the veal industry because males are no use to the dairy industry. They don't produce milk. And if they're females, they're still separated and they'll go through the same cycle of forcible impregnation. Between 3 and 5 years old, they will become less profitable as their milk production declines. They come with more health issues, and then they're sent to slaughterhouses, places like this, to be chopped up into body parts for things like cheap meat and cheeseburgers. If you have any questions, genuine questions about being vegan, maybe your friend, your family member is vegan, and you have a few questions that you haven't asked them, please do send it into the chat, and I will try and debunk and answer some questions. So I don't think this is a halal or kosher slaughterhouse. This is, I'm pretty sure they will bolt gun the cows to the head. They will then hang them up by their legs, and then they will slice their throats until they're obviously they're dead, and they will then chop them up into small body parts. They will often take them out onto refrigeration trucks to other processing and packaging facilities, and ultimately end up in supermarkets and restaurants. Yeah, you can get vegan cheeseburgers. They're very good. You know, so many, you can make it now yourself. You can go into supermarkets, get vegan burgers, and yeah, get vegan cheese, and there you go. Same taste, same meals, same familiarity, but without animals having to go to a slaughterhouse. So yeah, this slaughterhouse is just outside of London. This is a chain of slaughterhouses called ABP. So they have many slaughterhouses all around the country. You can look them up. They have cow slaughterhouses, they have sheep slaughterhouses, and often they're really sort of disguised. Like if you were to drive past this place, you would probably have no idea what this place is. You know, you just see gates, you see some trucks, you see some sort of industrial equipment. You would not really know what it is, and that's why we stand outside places like this and show the public exactly what is on their doorstep. You know, this is in the middle of a town. Some of them are out in the countryside hidden away, and some are just slap bam in the middle of town. And you know, hundreds of meters either side of this place, you can smell this site. The question, why do vegans want to taste meat but not eat it? So the idea is that they've replicated the taste of meat because people don't go vegan because they don't like the taste of meat. People want the same familiar meals. People want the same, you know, taste sensations, but you can get that without causing harm, cruelty, suffering to an animal. But again, you don't have to eat that. You can just eat plants instead. But the idea is that, yeah, you can get those same flavors, and it's not an excuse to pay for animals to go to slaughterhouses when we have things like vegan burgers, vegan hot dogs, vegan sausages, whatever it might be. I go to the shop, fruits and veg is already barely there, costs a fortune, your privilege is showing. There was a study, which I explain often in my live streams, that they did a study between a plant-based food shop and a meat-eating food shop. And on average, the plant-based food shop was 30% cheaper. Plant-based foods are some of the cheapest foods out there. Think of all the fruits, vegetables, rice, legumes, beans. They are the cheapest and most accessible foods. And you can be vegan anywhere, especially here in the UK when you have the access to supermarkets and restaurants. Exactly, plant food is inexpensive, and that's all around the world. You can generally get access to all the plants and nutrition that you need. But if you're, in society where you have supermarkets and restaurants, then you can, obviously afford all these foods. Vegan food is more expensive, you liar. Not lying, I can explain what I mean though. When you have any sort of food, so if we take animal products, let's take steaks, you can get a really cheap steak and you can get super expensive steaks. The same thing with vegan products, you can get super expensive vegan branded alternatives like Beyond Meat or other Asda's own, Tesco's own version. Or you can eat whole food plant-based foods, things like tofu, tempeh, seitan. They are far, far cheaper than things like steak and mince and burgers. Yeah, look at you all in the comments defending slaughterhouses. So many people clearly on this stream love sending animals into a slaughterhouse. They love seeing them or paying for them to have a bolt gun to the head and to be sliced by their throat, or to be lowered down into a CO2 gas chamber, to be burnt to death, have their lungs burn, their eyes burn until they suffocate to death. And if you don't want to support that, you can be vegan from now and you don't have to pay for this anymore. And that's the only reason that these industries exist, is all supply and demand. Don't you see all the hate you're getting? You know you're wrong. So if we go back to other injustices in life, across the many, many years, things that were the norm in society, yet there was a small group that stood up against whatever oppression that might have been, whether it was women's rights, whether it was slavery. They might have been seen to be the odd ones out, the people that think they were wrong, but actually they're doing what is morally right, what is ethically right. And that's what we are doing as vegans and animal rights activists, is standing up for the billions of animals that are slaughtered every single year for human consumption when it's unnecessary. Comment here, I'm not vegan but I'm vegetarian, raised my daughter vegetarian. So just a question back, if you're able to respond, is what was the reason that you wanted to be vegetarian, raise your daughter vegetarian, and then what is the reason that you're not vegan today? So another one about so farm animals. So I explained this a bit earlier, but essentially, this is all supply and demand. So over time, the production and enslavement of animals would reduce, and we would grow and transition so that animals would stop being bred into existence, and farmers would transition to growing crops instead. And then animals would eventually end up in sanctuaries, but it would happen in a gradual flow, and that is essentially what would happen to animals. So there's a comment about what would happen to the fields. These fields, this land has been cleared for farming in the first place. Animal agriculture is the #1 reason of deforestation, and there's a huge portion of land use and water use. Fields and farms that have been cleared for the space to grow these animals. And it shows that actually if we all adopted a plant-based diet, we'd be able to rewild 75% of the arable farmland in the world. 3/4 of the world we could take back, rewild, to grow crops, and just to be back with nature, let the planet heal itself. Get a grip and get a job. I've got one, have you? So you do proper work because you repair people's houses. So is speaking up for animals going to slaughterhouses, do you think that's just pointless then? And again, there's a question here about animals going extinct. Animal agriculture is the #1 cause of lots of atrocities on this planet. For example, species extinction, habitat loss, water use, land use. If you really care about animals going extinct, you would care about animal agriculture and you would stop paying for animals to go to slaughterhouses. Again, we're not suddenly letting all the animals free straight away. As much as we would like that, it's not going to happen. It's a supply and demand. Gradually, the supply will reduce. If you have any questions, genuine questions about being vegan and what we're doing here today outside a slaughterhouse, bearing witness to the cows, please put them in the chat. Don't be deterred by a lot of these silly comments. There's also, in my video description, there's a link to a 3-minute movie, and you can watch exactly what happens to these animals. You can see for yourself, don't just take my word for it. In just 3 minutes, you can see exactly what happens to animals for food, for drink, for clothing, for testing, for entertainment. You can get vegan steak, you can get juicy marbles, a really good vegan steak. Yeah, interesting comment, Stuart. Yeah, the amount of people that think it's just absolutely hilarious that animals go into a slaughterhouse. They think it's hilarious that animals are gassed to death to be burnt from the insides. You're paid to be there. I would love to be paid to be here, but sadly, I've had to pay to be here. You know, and even if I was, that's great because then the animals get more attention, you know? What's your thoughts on halal? As I said earlier, so things like halal, whatever you might believe in on the way that animals are killed, animals go to slaughterhouses to be killed, and that's what matters. Doesn't matter how they're killed, the method of killing. The point is that animals are going inside and they're being gassed to death or having their throats sliced open when we don't need to. Billions of animals are being killed unnecessarily. Yeah, vegan steak is called Juicy Marbles. Check it out. Transport, medicine, the industry still depend on animal byproducts. So often these things are not actually byproducts, these are co-products. Animals that are bred to be killed and have their skin taken. So for example, leather. When we don't need it, we don't need leather, we don't need gelatin. There are alternatives that exist in society today. So just to have a quick pan around to show you exactly what we're doing, where we are. So we've got David, the 40-year-old vegan, live streaming here as well. And we've got Mel and Steve over here. Thanks for the comment, Jayesh. So this is the slaughterhouse. This is where the trucks go in. Obviously they've got the gates across. They don't want anyone being here. They don't want people exposing what happens to these animals. These are the trucks that have already gone in. They've unloaded the animals. If you go back to like 5 or 10 minutes into the start of this stream, you'll see the trucks that have gone in. You can see the animals' faces. And the last comment, I have vegan shoes on, thank you very much, because so many options exist today. You don't have to pay for animals' body parts. It's funny, I showed my shoes on the last stream I did, but the fact it's got literally the word vegan on it as well is a bit of a giveaway. So there's a comment about animals used for life-saving medicines. So let's just say, for example, that was the only thing you were concerned about. What's stopping you then from being vegan and stopping paying for animals across everything else? Obviously, people are stopping by, asking questions. A lot of people that probably live and work around here have no idea what this sort of place is. People that would not know that there's a slaughterhouse literally on their doorstep. And no, Haggy, I'm not going to show my shoes. and I have shown them before. So if you want to check out my previous live stream at a slaughterhouse, you can see my shoes there if you're that interested. Question about meat alternatives to spike blood sugar. I'd say, you know, the healthiest is a whole foods plant-based diet. So, you know, raw whole foods and less plant-based alternatives if that's what, you know, suits you, and do some proper nutrition as well. Check things out. There's a really good site. It's on my link tree. It's called Challenge 22. There's free mentors on there that can help you with nutrition advice, but also, like, we have technology today. You've got Google, something like ChatGPT. If you put in your diet and you have these sort of health concerns, it will show you the response of what foods you could possibly eat that will help whatever symptoms you're getting. What's stopping me from being vegan? I like meat, the Bible speaks about this, and it's untextual, I get brainwashed. So, does the Bible not say we shouldn't kill? How would Jesus kill an animal? Drop and give me 20, soy boy. Can do more than that. So, genuine question here about vitamin B12. So it's a common thing that's, I think, blown up when unnecessarily blown up. But B12 is not just a vegan or plant-based issue or thing that people talk about. This is across general health for meat eaters as well. They did a study about B12 and they found a lot of meat eaters to be deficient in B12 as well. And the reason for that is that B12 doesn't come from plants or animals. It's basically derives from bacteria used in the soil. And the way that we've transitioned to the farming today is a lot of that B12 is lost. However, the reason that people get it through animals is because animals are fed B12 supplements in their foods. So you can take a B12 supplement as a vegan, and you don't have to be vegan, but you can still take a B12 supplement. I think what everyone should do is take a multivitamin, and then you're covered anyway, because a lot of people's diets massively vary. So, you know, take a supplement, because animals are being fed the supplements that you're probably eating anyway. So I'm at an ABP slaughterhouse just outside of London in the UK. Yeah, thanks for that response, Stuart. But what if people want to eat meat? Surely let people. So this is the idea of, it's an individual choice, it's a personal choice, let everyone be. The issue is that there is someone you're forgetting about that choice. There is a victim, there is someone involved in that choice. Someone wanting to eat an animal, for the animal, they're being sent into a slaughterhouse to be killed. And therefore it's not just a personal choice.
Always have your cameras on the police.
Look at this shit on the floor. Animals coming to pick up the car.
Vegemite has B12. Yeah, and a lot of foods are fortified with B12. For example, you've got, just gonna record this. So obviously the police have been called, and there's a reason for this, that the slaughterhouse obviously gets so concerned and they want to get rid of people trying to expose them. You wouldn't see police getting called to a strawberry field if someone was standing outside. If any of the vegans in the comments can respond to any questions that are coming through at the moment, that would be much appreciated. Yeah, often police get called, and usually they'll be gone within a few minutes. At the end of the day, the police, they just want to make sure that everyone's safe. They want to make sure that we're safe, that they're safe, and obviously we're here to be, non-violent, non-confrontational. We're here just to document what happens to the animals that are going through on these trucks. We're not trespassing, we're not breaking and entering, we're not doing anything like that. We're literally here to be peaceful and to show people what happens to animals. Yeah, interesting comment, Z. There's people that just, are not very nice people. There's unkind people. And unfortunately, we have to rely on the people that are compassionate to make those changes. Why are you asking if I drive a car? Please elaborate. So I'm outside a slaughterhouse here in the UK, basically documenting what is happening to animals that are going inside the slaughterhouse. Just flip the camera back around. So the police are still here. Yeah, I'm not sure what they've just spoken to Mel and Steve. I'm sure everything's fine. So for anyone, again, that has maybe tuned in and haven't heard what I've said earlier, in the video description to this live, there is a link to a video called 3minutes.wtf. And it's a 3-minute video showing you exactly what happens to animals. And it shows, from farming to slaughter to entertainment, whatever it might be, but it's just a 3-minute snippet of pulled together from different documentaries, and it's a real life-changing 3-minute movie. David's just talking to the police now, he's giving them cards. So, we're reaching thousands of people and multiple of these live streams showing people what happens at slaughterhouses. And ultimately people see this and sort of realize themselves that they love animals and they want to respect them. And they come to the realization that you cannot do that if you're still sending animals into places like this. You cannot pay for them to be slaughtered if you respect them. So people have to change it. So thank you, Jamie, thanks for the support. Thanks for the comment, Z. So, what I'd definitely recommend you saying is, check out the 3-minute movie in the video description. And, that's a big reason why a lot of people went vegan, but also watch The Land of Hope and Glory, as that's what happens in the UK if you're UK-based. And, I watched Earthlings, and that's what made me vegan. After watching that 4.5 years ago, I realized that I respect animals, I love animals, and, if you've got them as pets, you wouldn't send them into a slaughterhouse. You treat them as a member of your family. So actually, you come to the realization that from now on, you can change. From now on, you can make that decision to say, right, I'm going to be vegan now, and I'm going to respect these animals. And, use ChatGPT, use Google, whatever you need to in terms of, deciding what other foods you're going to do, and to eat, and to what clothes to buy. But there's so much out there in society today, in the supermarkets and shops. Cherry pick the questions. There's a lot of questions coming through. If I've missed them, please feel free to repost them in the chat. Happy to respond to them. Exactly, yeah, stop feeding so many plants to animals. You don't need to grow billions of these crops to feed to animals to then eat animals. It's such an inefficient system as well. It takes up 80% of our animal agriculture land, arable land used for animals, give us 13% of our calories. It's such an inefficient system. Yeah, I wouldn't want to eat my dog, exactly. So if you don't want to eat your dog, you know, the difference between a dog or a pig or a cow, these are all the same animals that have feelings, have pain, have subjective emotions. And pigs are actually more intelligent than dogs. So if you wouldn't put your dog into a gas chamber at 6 months old, why would you want to put a pig through the same thing? Yeah, thanks Jayesh for that response. If you have a dog, what do you feed it? Vegetables. So you can get plant-based food for your dogs. And if you look up Dr. Andrew Knight of the University of Winchester, he has done countless studies on feeding dogs plant-based diets. Many people I know, Mel and Steve that are here with us, they have dogs and they are thriving on plant-based foods. And other people I know that have started feeding their dogs plant-based diets have actually had much better health outcomes. So what's, I guess from now on, like, what do you think about slaughterhouses? What do you think about being vegan? If you're not already, this could be the first time that you've probably had an animal rights activist come on camera. Maybe it's the first time you're hearing about what happens to animals. You know, what does it make you think? What does it make you feel? So we're not talking about wild dogs, you know, I'm not talking about wild wolves. These are domesticated animals, you know, people that are having animals as pets or companion animals, those that are, you know, the animals are reliant on them as food sources. You can't be vegan, you eat fish, stop eating fish. Why would you want fish to be killed? So we're not, you know, when we look at the animal kingdom, what happens to animals? You've got various types of, you know, animals like lions, they're obligate carnivores, you know, they hunt their prey, but they also eat their young, you know, they essentially rape other lions, they eat their babies, things that we wouldn't do. So why would we want to look to the wild to adopt things that we would address? But also when you look in the wild, you have animals like hippos and rhinos who are herbivores, they just eat plants. The idea is, you know, leave animals alone. We don't need to domesticate them, enslave them, encage them. We don't need to send them into slaughterhouses to be gassed to death or have their throats sliced for the sake of a 5-10 minute meal. It's disgusting what we do to animals. And if you truly respect animals, you stop paying for them to go to places like this. I said, AM, what's your point about driving a car? What's the question about? You know, genuine questions about being vegan I'll answer, so please do pop them in the chat. And no, my shoes don't have leather, they are vegan shoes. Because there's vegan alternatives for everything. Sorry, I didn't see your point. If you could post it again. There's a lot of comments coming through. Yeah. And yeah, so cats as well. Andrew Knight also did studies on cats. So feel free to check out that research. Steve just said something, oh. Apparently if you double tap the screen, you get this interesting visual that's popping up. That's what Steve's saying. If you double tap the screen, he's just trying it with David at the moment. That's interesting. So at the end of the day, when you know, if you're looking at dogs and cats, like the food generally that is dog and cat food are animals that come into places like this, animals that are sent to slaughterhouses. Why should hundreds or thousands of animals have to die for the sake of another animal when those animals can eat plants? So we've had a few trucks in earlier this morning at this slaughterhouse, and what we just wanted to show you is maybe, you know, a video of one of the cows that just to show you a glimpse of what they might look like inside. These are the innocent victims. You know, when you look at the fear in their eyes, they have no idea what's about to happen, but they can smell and they can sense it. And the same with the sheep. These are the victims. Innocent babies. There is no excuse for sending animals into a gas chamber. There is no excuse. If you really cared about animals, you'd be vegan. Please do check out the 3-minute video in my video description again. It's called 3minutes.wtf. And you can check out some of my reels and content that I've captured at other slaughterhouses, and debates with people on the street. Or you can follow my socials at Alex Activism on Instagram and TikTok as well, and you can see some of the conversations I've had with the people in the public. People that go vegan after watching the 3-minute video that I've put in the video caption. Yeah, Winston, if you keep posting about Cambridge, I'm just going to get rid of you, because I've said before, I've got nothing to do with Cambridge, so it's just pointless comments. If you're an animal lover, if you respect animals, you need to realise that if you're not vegan, you're paying for animals to come to places like this. You're paying them to come into slaughterhouses to be gassed to death. And something that Mel said earlier on the stream, how many more animals are going to die from this moment onwards for you? For you individually, how many more animals do you want to be killed? And if the answer is 0, you can be vegan. You can be vegan right now and make that change. Before vegan, I ate dairy until I found out dairy cows live the worst of all lives. Yeah. Dairy cows are, I feel like when people go vegetarian, they think they're doing right by the cows, but what happens to dairy cows is absolutely disgusting. Dairy cows are forcibly impregnated. They take the semen from a bull. They will then get a metal rod and insert it into the female cow to impregnate them. Then once the cow, after months of pregnancy, will give birth, the babies would then be taken from the cow, the mother cow. If they're male, the cows will likely be killed within the first weeks and sold to the veal industry. And if they're females, they're still separated from their mothers. And then they will basically go through the same cycle of forcible impregnation. And they go to about 3 to 5 years old until their milk production starts to decline and they get more health issues. And for that reason, the farmers deem them as less profitable, and for that reason, they are known as spent in the industry, and they basically get taken to a slaughterhouse like this. So the dairy industry is the meat industry. Dairy cows will be killed here, and their body parts will be taken for food, for cheap burgers and mince and things like that. So even if you're vegetarian, you're paying for animals to come to slaughterhouses. You're paying for their suffering. Question, what's going on? So I'm here live at a slaughterhouse in the UK, and this slaughterhouse takes in hundreds of cows every single day on slaughterhouse trucks. We've had a few come in already this morning, and we're here to show the public that this is on your front doorstep. This is in the middle of a town, outside businesses, outside houses. There's slaughterhouses all around the country, and we're here to expose exactly these animals that are going in, and to show you that actually we don't need to pay for animals to be sent to a slaughterhouse. We can be kind to animals, we can respect them. If you have companion animals or pets, you're pretty sure you wouldn't want your pet cat or your pet dog to be sent into a slaughterhouse like this, to be gassed to death, to be shot in the head and have your throat sliced. Thank you for the comment, Bo. Appreciate that. And for anyone not following already that wants to see more content, more live streams, more of my stuff, Alex Activism on Instagram, TikTok, be great to have more support on there as well. So yeah, and please do check out the 3-minute video in my video description, in the caption to this live stream, 3minutes.wtf, and you can see exactly what happens to these animals. So the question, but where else should we get our meat from? So you can still get the same meals, similar foods, but without sending animals to slaughterhouses like this. So many alternatives exist. So you can get plant-based burgers, plant-based sausages, plant-based fish, plant-based whatever it is in supermarkets and restaurants today. But you don't have to have the alternatives if you don't want them. You can just eat a whole food plant-based diet. You know, we got plenty of foods: tofu, tempeh, seitan, chickpeas, kidney beans, legumes, lentils. You can eat so much food that doesn't involve the slaughter of animals. Hey James, thanks for tuning in. So yeah, just going to pan the camera. So as I said earlier, we've got Mel and Steve live streaming at the same time as well. And on the other side of me, we've got David, the 40-year-old vegan, also here. We've had a few trucks come in already, and this place absolutely stinks. It's a disgusting place, and security, obviously, they keep this place shut. They don't want anyone looking inside. They keep it so secretive. And there's a reason why they keep it so secretive. If people realized what we do to animals, how they get to the products that people buy in supermarkets, they'd be disgusted and horrified. And that's why I recommend watching the 3-minute movie that's in my description. It's completely free. So AM, do you care about bugs? Just out of interest, do you care about bug populations? And again, so the comment about, there's a common themes coming through is about intentional and unintentional harm. Us as vegans are basically saying that the choices we make are not going to impact an animal's lives directly. You know, we cannot sometimes, unfortunately, when, if you're driving a car, if you're walking down the street and you tread on a bug, that is so unintentional. But you can be vegan and not have to pay for animals to be sent into slaughterhouses, to be bred, to be enslaved on a mass scale, billions of land animals every single year. Thanks, Alicia, for putting that in the chat. This question here, No, fair enough. So yeah, watch the 3-minute video and see the truth for yourself. It's good to see some other vegans on the chat. Obviously a lot of the comments are always from people that aren't vegan, and they like to just wind up vegans and activists. But there's been some really, really genuine comments on the chat, and I'd encourage them. I'd encourage more people to put their genuine questions in, as like I have been answering many, many questions here today about what happens to animals. Cattle are not gassed, they're bolted. Yeah, absolutely. So, when I've been talking about animals that go into slaughterhouses, this one specifically that has cows, they'll be bolt gunned to the head and then they'll have their throat sliced open. But in other slaughterhouses that I've been to, they'll be basically gassed to death. So if they're pigs, they'll be 6 months old and they'll be lowered into CO2 gas chambers. They will suffocate from the inside, their lungs will burn, their eyes will burn. And the same thing with chickens. So chicks that are usually 40, 42 days old, just 6 weeks old, they're babies, they're lowered into CO2 gas chambers. Thanks, Bill, for the comment, appreciate that. There's a lot of recurring comment about innocent developing humans. Don't know what you're talking about there, but I'm here to speak up for the animals. There's a lot of injustices happening in the world, and you can advocate for many other things, but we as animal rights activists are speaking up for the animals today because the animals don't have a voice. They need us and other people, more people speaking up for them. You can get vegan versions of all that. You can get vegan pork, vegan chicken, vegan beef. There's no excuse to still send an animal into a slaughterhouse when you can have something else. So if you have any questions about being vegan, please do put them into the chat. You know, now's a good chance if you have friends or family members that are vegan, but you're not brave enough to ask them, or if you've got any concerns, put them in the chat and I'll happily debunk or answer any questions, and always give my honest views as well. I said you can get vegan steak. Mel was just having an argument with the public. Hey Chip, thanks for tuning in. So this slaughterhouse literally is on a road, where businesses, where the public walk past, and people get so triggered. And all we're trying to do is stop animals from being sent into slaughterhouses. That's all we're trying to do. I'm just going to get this on film. I'm filming for safety, thank you very much.
You're on camera. I'm not going to do it. You're on camera. You're on camera.
You're live on YouTube.
This is the only look. He gets
Truck coming out.
This guy gets the guy.
That man was actually just squaring up to Mel, so rightly so, Steve was going up to protect Mel. He was so triggered, so angry. No, I don't know what conversation they were having, but I assume it wasn't a very good one. So yeah, sorry if I've missed a few comments. If they're genuine comments, please resend them in. When you'll get jobs, again, we have jobs, and why does it matter? Do you have a job? I'm not going in about your job. So is vegan food, especially in the supermarket, not highly processed? So when you look at processed foods, when you look at meat products, they are highly processed. When you turn an animal into something that you buy in a supermarket or a restaurant, that's obviously highly processed. But you don't have to eat highly processed foods if you don't want to. You can eat a whole foods, plant-based diet, things like tofu, tempeh, seitan, beans, cashew nuts, whatever it might be. You can eat whole foods that are less processed foods. So again, it depends on what you want to, what your preferences are, but the fact that animals in the supermarkets are highly processed, full of hormones. So if you're really caring about your health, then you'd be plant-based. And yeah, thanks Alicia. So yeah, everything I'm wearing is not from an animal. I've got vegan clothes on, vegan shoes on. Yeah, no, nowadays we have vegan alternatives for everything. Question about avocados. Yeah, what's the point about that? You get a lot of people doing the avocado question. And if it's what I think it is, you'd be probably better off watching a video between Piers Morgan and Joey Carbstrong. Just Google or go on YouTube, Joey Carbstrong, Piers Morgan, and they'll talk about all the avocados. How many insects are killed when you spray for your vegetables? It's the same pesticides, you know, used for the feed that are fed to animals. Okay. So basically, you know, can leave you with you know, the thoughts of, if you are an animal lover, if you respect animals, you don't have to send animals into a slaughterhouse to be gassed to death, to have their throats sliced. Watch the 3-minute video that's in my video description, and you can be vegan from now on. Feel free to check out my other socials, Alex Activism, and also at It's Mel and Steve, and the 40-year-old vegan as well. And any proper questions, any genuine questions, please, you know, follow up with me, drop in my DMs, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we'll be live again soon.